guys, welcome back to the channel, Nate's Pink Bookshelf. My name is Nate Denise. For those of you who are new to the channel or who just happened to stumble across this video, and today's video is going to be my September wrap-up. September was a pretty great month. I read a total of 23 books. I kind of missed out on 8 other books, but that's okay. 4 of them were physical copies, which I do have here to show you guys, and the other 4 were ebooks. But of the 4 ebooks, I carried over 3 into my October TBR. So if you haven't seen my October TBR, which I apologize that video was almost an hour long, but that's because I'm partaking in 2 book clubs, 3 read-alongs, and like 5 readathons and stuff like that. So yeah, but like I said, click the I to go to that, and if you look in the description box of that video, you can go to the timestamps to each of the readathons and things like that, if that makes sense. So we're gonna get into this. So the 4 books that I did not get a chance to go and read are The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. Did not read this, but that's okay. I want to take my time getting back into her books because I have read them all. I've enjoyed them all, so I'm not going to rush through the Throne of Glass series. I did read up into, I believe it is book 5, I think it is, and book 6 came out. Whenever Tower of Dawn came out, I stopped reading at that because I don't care for Kale as a character. He irritates me. So I have read this before. I did enjoy it, but I did not get a chance to read it in September. The other book I did not get a chance to read was Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I wanted to read this prior to reading the sequel, which I know is a companion novel, but I didn't get a chance to get to it, so that's sad. I also didn't get a chance to go into Song of the Crimson Flower by Julie Seidel. And lastly, I also didn't get a chance to read The Guinevere Deception by Kiersten White. Yeah, Kiersten White. Did not get a chance to read those 4. Eventually, I will read them. They will go back on my shelves, and I'll use them for other things. But let's move on now to my September TBR. So, September TBR? No. My September wrap-up. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking in my reading journal at my ratings, because I'm honestly not going to remember everything I need to talk about, and I have the books here. So the first book I read for the month of September is Crown of Crowns by Clara Loveman, and I gave this book a 3.5-star rating. This was pretty good. It's YA fantasy. I enjoyed it, but it was very predictable, and I don't know, I just wanted some more out of it, so hopefully this does better with the sequel. The sequel sounds really good. I think the sequel is in the back of this book. Let me see. Yes, it's called Godly Sins. I enjoyed Kaylin, and I also enjoyed what is the boy's name? Roki. His name is Roki. I enjoyed them as characters, and I also enjoyed the other love interest, which I can't remember his name at the time. But there was just too much scheming and lying going on, betrayal going on, and there was a sort of mystery plot, a slight mystery plot to it that I was intrigued with, but I just wasn't invested in the characters as a whole. However, this had some really phenomenal quotes, really phenomenal things mentioned, so that's why I did give it a 3.5-star rating. I'm hoping that the sequel is going to be a 4-star for me, but I definitely would recommend this if you're looking for something that's a quick YA read for you. So we have this book. Alright, so following that, I read this book, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little disappointed in this book because I was hoping this would be like a 4 or 4.5-star rating, but it was not for me. It was a 3.75, and even still, I'm like, do I give it a 3.5? Do I give it a 3.75? So that's gonna be Foundryside by Robert Jackson Benett. This is adult fantasy, and I was not invested in the characters at all. The only character I cared for is Clef. I did not care for Sanchia. Gregor was annoying, and Orson and the rest of the characters, I wasn't sold on them in general. The pacing was weird. There was some breaks in between the story that made no sense. I did listen to the audiobook while reading, which probably made it worse for me as far as like reading it through with the audiobook, because how the book is set up. The writing was pretty good, but I wasn't invested in any of the characters outside of Clef, and Clef is a magical key that can unlock anything, and Clef is adorable and amazing, and I love him. I love the magic system of scribing. I want more of the scribing ability to be explained. The world building was pretty good. Foundryside is pretty much like the poor side of the sort of world that they live in, and I also like how he tied it into the different sort of systems. I forgot what they're called. Like, they're many like cast or towns within the whole world. Can't remember, honestly. Wasn't completely invested in this story. I did read this for the Busy Bee book club with Aaron over at Booked and Busy, so I'm going to leave in card above. You can go and click that to go watch the live show. Pretty much a lot of people were not invested in the characters, but we all loved Clef. Clef is like, he is the key, literally a key, and the key to the entire story. It really didn't pick up with the story until the end, and I heard that Shorefall is better, so I will pick up Shorefall, but I was not completely sold on this. This was also one of the books that I read for Becca's Bookopoly, so yeah. Next book I read is Brandon Sanderson, the Hero of Ages, excuse me. The third and final book in the Mistborn Era 1, and I gave this a 4-star rating. I enjoyed it, very slow paced, but I wanted more, and I kind of spoiled myself for the end because I did flip to the end to see what was happening. So to find out what happened with Vin and Ellen, I was kind of heartbroken, and the whole story just I wasn't understanding. I don't know, I guess I was expecting so much more because the first and second book were so amazing. The second book definitely got a 5-star for me, this one got a 4. So because I gave the sequel, The Well of Ascension, a 5-star, I was definitely expecting so much more out of this, and this pretty much like dragged out. And the writing was phenomenal, of course, the world building was phenomenal, the plot itself was great, but it was heartbreaking to read. So 4 stars. Next book I read is Lynn Austin's Gods and Kings. This is biblical fiction. I gave this book a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. This talks about King Hezekiah, the prophet Zechariah. There's another prophet, can't remember his name. Is it Hosea? No, not Hosea. Micah or Amos, I can't remember which prophet it is, but it's basically talks about King Hezekiah, King Ahaz. You have talks of the different the pagan gods and goddesses and things like that. It was really, really good. The writing was phenomenal. The quotes and inspiration was great, but I wasn't fully invested and sold on the story like the characters. So that's why I gave it a 4 stars, but this was definitely intriguing enough. This is not for those who are faint at heart. There is child killing in here because we know that, or if you're not a Christian, back in those times, they worshiped the pagan gods and they worshiped Moloch, and Moloch, you had to sacrifice your children. So there is child sacrifice in this, but I still enjoy this enough, so I gave it a 4-star rating. Next book I read was a crime contemporary romance, and it's Machiavellian by this author here. I did give this a 5 stars. I enjoyed the romance. I thought it was fun. I thought it was spicy and steamy and angsty, drama filled. It was everything that I needed for an adult romance. I don't read these too often, just because I have not grown out of it, but I tend to space them out. So it was really, really fun to read this. However, they do have this on NetGalley right now as an audiobook, so I am definitely going to be rereading this with the audiobook through NetGalley. But yeah, this book was everything. I gave it a 5-star rating. Alright, the next book I read is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I read this with Joelle from Fictional Fates for the Late Night Book Club, and this was a 5-star all the way. Evelyn she is sassy. I loved Evelyn so much. I loved that there were black characters, number one. I loved who's the young lady who was doing the actual interview? Monique. Monique is interesting as well. The connection between Monique and Evelyn was completely unexpected. Okay, this has LGBT plus rap in it, which I was here for. I was here for the romances. I was here for the drama. I was here for the Hollywood feel. I was here for everything from the story. The ending with Evelyn broke my heart so much. It broke my heart. The romances that she had were hilarious, but the 2 romances with her friends were everything to me. Everything and more. I definitely will see me rereading this. This is like perfection for historical fiction. Perfection. Next book I read is Mermaid Moon by Susann Cokal. This is YA fantasy, and I read this for the Simply We Read book club hosted by Kaylani from Simply Me. I think that's her channel. Click the eye to go to the live show for that. But this I gave a 3.75 star rating, right? Let me just check. Yeah, 3.75 star rating. I absolutely loved the writing. The writing was really lyrical. I liked the atmosphere of the underworld, the underwater realm with the mermaids. I also liked the atmosphere of the land people. However, this was confusing. I did not care about the characters whatsoever. Like, it kept me interested enough to want to read it, but not interested enough to be invested in any of the characters. And I don't even remember their names. What's her name? Sana just seemed to be a little naive. She seemed to be like really, really powerful, but she was one of those characters who are like really, really powerful but don't know how to use their powers and don't really care to use their powers. So yeah, the Baroness Thyra, I think that's how you say her name, Thyra. I think that's how you say her name was Thyra. However, it's on the screen. She irked me. I did not like her whatsoever. She is like the evil witch of every story that you could think of. It's not too brutal, but I didn't care for her. The Baroness's son was annoying. Thyra is the Baroness, and her son he was obnoxious. Like, every time he was on the page, I cringed because he irritated me so much. He was like one of those characters that you just don't ever want to hear or see from. So yeah, I have feelings, but the writing itself definitely strong, so that's why I gave this a 3.75 star rating. I definitely will read more of Susann Cokal. I know there's another book out that she has, something with the wounds. I don't remember the titles on the screen. I do want to check that out, but yeah, this book is so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Next book I read is The Kingdom of Back, by Marilo. Gave this 3.5 star rating. I didn't care. Not even gonna lie, I did not care about this like at all. I was not invested in the characters. I did not care about the characters. The world, however, of The Kingdom of Back was phenomenal in every aspect. I love The Kingdom of Back. It's beautiful. Everything is so backwards, and the plot was very predictable, to say the least. I mean, I liked that they talked about Mozart's sister. I liked learning about her in the history, but I just wasn't sold on this. So lyrical, of course, poetic, yes, atmospheric, yes, but I just did not care for the characters, and the main sort of love interest slash antagonist, whatever you want to call him, pissed me off. Like, it was something fishy about him from the start, but it kept solidifying as the story went on, and when you got to the end of the story, I was like, oh, okay, that's it. So I love the other two series she did, the Prodigy series, the Legend series, the Legend series, and the other book series she came out with. I can't remember the titles on the screen, but this just did not do it for me, so I gave it 3.5 star rating. I will keep it on my shelves. I definitely think that this is a book I definitely could pick up again, but I just was not sold on it. So yeah. Following that, I read The Mark by Tim LaHaye and Jeremy Jenkins. Gave this 4-star rating. This is the 8th book in the Left Behind series, and it was pretty cool. Just was really, really slow paced. Not a lot of action in here. Carpathia is still a douchebag to me, but yeah, give it 4 stars. I don't really have much to say about it. If you guys don't know, the Left Behind series is a Christian sci fantasy all about the rapture, the end times, the Book of Revelation. So this does incorporate a lot of scripture from the Book of Revelation. It does talk about death. It does talk about you know, things like that. So if you're not comfortable with that, just know that ahead of time. But yeah, this for me is, this series so far has been a complete 4-star rating. I have given, I think, 1 or 2 books a 4.5 star rating, but that is pretty much it for this. Following that, I read A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, and this is YA fantasy, African-based mythology. And this I gave 4 stars to. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed Malik over Karina. I enjoyed the plot, but there were a lot of tropes in this, and the romance just felt unneeded. Honestly, it just was unneeded, like unneeded. I love the friendship, however, between Malik and Karina, and I love the talk of anxiety and mental health and things like that. I thought this was like really, really well done, especially towards the end, so I'm excited for the sequel. I know that this is only a duology, so I'm super, super excited to see where it goes. The romance, again, I just didn't care for. I felt like it was rushed and just thrown in there. I wish they would make more YA fantasies without romances. Like, a good platonic friendship is all we need. We don't always need a romance. Like, stop, please stop. But I definitely would recommend this. This was definitely really, really good, fun read. I did listen to the audiobook while reading, so that helped a lot. But yeah, I gave it a 4-star rating. Next book I read is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and I gave this a 4.5 star rating. I was living for this book. The Mexican folklore, I loved the mythology, I loved the history, I loved the characters. Like, this was everything and more to me. I think her name is Cassiopeia. I'm probably saying it wrong, but I loved her sass. Hunkame, I was here for so much. I did not care for his brother, Vokukam. I can't pronounce his name, but the brother here, I didn't care for, but I was rooting for the romance in this book up until the end, and I was like, why? I think that's why I didn't give it a 5-star rating, because I was like really rooting for the romance between Cassiopeia and Cassiopeia. I always want to say Cassiopeia, but it's not Cassiopeia. I think it's Cassiopeia. I'm probably still butchering it, but I was rooting for the romance between her and Hunkame. Her cousin, I think his name is Martin. He's annoying. He is annoying to the T from beginning to end. I didn't really care about him more even at the end. Like, I kind of got a soft spot for him towards the end, but I didn't care about him whatsoever. So yeah, I gave it a 4.5 star rating. If the romance would have developed the way I wanted, I definitely would have gave it a solid 5, but this was a fun read. I loved it so much, so I'm so excited to own this book. Next book is going to be The Wolf Queen by Cerece, Rennie, Murphy, and it's YA fantasy, and I enjoyed this. Gave it a 4-star rating. This is not the first time I read it. It's the second time I read it, and honestly, as much as I gave it a 4-star rating, I can't remember much of what goes on. I just know it follows Amina, right? That's her name, Amina? Yeah, Amina, and you know, the power that she has that's technically supposed to be long gone from her tribe. So I am going to reread this again for like a third or fourth time to really like dive deep, because I didn't really annotate in this, and I know that there is a sequel to this, so I definitely want to get the sequel and then just binge read it together. But yeah, I gave it a 4-star rating. The next book I read is The Story Raider by Lindsay A. Franklin. I gave this 5 stars. This was phenomenal. It is Christian fantasy, and I love Christian fantasy, and this one was just everything. It's the second book to the story Peddler, and I love the magic system in this. I love the characters. I think they're amazing, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. The next book I read is Logisona by Romina Garber. Yeah, Romina Garber, and I gave this a 4-star rating. As much as I wanted to give it a 5, this is sort of a interesting blend of a contemporary magical realism book and straight up fantasy. It almost leans urban fantasy, but it has that contemporary style writing to it, which is why I say probably magical realism. I don't know, because like magical realism, I don't consider it to be like straight up real magic. It's like you think that there's magic around, you think that there's certain things around, but then there's not. Whereas urban fantasy, it's like fantasy set in modern society. So it's like it's a weird blend, but I enjoy this so much. It was well written. The fantasy aspects dealing with the logisona, which is a female werewolf, and witches and wolves was just everything to me. I definitely want to read the sequel when it comes out, because that ending I wasn't expecting. So yeah. Okay, so the next book I read is Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, excuse me, and this is YA mystery thriller. I gave this a solid 4.5 star rating. This was everything and more to me. I know I keep saying everything and more, but I don't know how else to talk about books besides them being everything and more to me. But I'm not big on mystery and thrillers at all. That's not like my genre. That's like in the realm of like horror and stuff. I don't read it, but this was excellent to me. I loved the friendships, I loved the romance, I loved the characters, I loved the not atmosphere per se, but I loved the mansion. I loved the ending to this. Was that ending with Harry, I was not expecting like at all. I will say there was a scene where baby girl got shot at, and I was like, why is she getting shot at? Like, why is she getting shot at? Okay, I didn't understand. Okay, so for those who don't know, this book follows Avery Grams. I think that's her name, Avery Grams. And she basically is living the Cinderella type of story in a sense. She's very poor. She's very out. Her mother is gone. Her father has like just straight up dipped on her and her sister. She has a half sister from her father's side, not her mother's. So they have different mothers. She's living with her sister. But then her sister has this on and off again boyfriend who is like sort of aggressive. So she decides to go live in her car. Lo and behold, she is put into the will of this old man named Tobias Hawthorne, and she is named the heir. Now, mind you, this man has disinherited his entire family and left her everything. Stranger, never met him before. As the plot goes on, you get to learn more about Avery, her connection to Tobias, and things like that. But I enjoy this. You have the 4 Hawthorne brothers that are in here, who are the grandson, excuse me, to Tobias Hawthorne. And in order for her to basically get everything that's in the will, she has to live at the mansion with these guys and the entire family for at least a year. And yeah, you have Grayson Hawthorne, who immediately just hates her. He's supposed to be the heir, but he just immediately hates her. You have Jameson, Jameson is my little put pie. I love Jameson. Xander as well. And then you have, I was going to say his name was Nate, but it's not Nate. His name is not Nate. What is his name? His name was Nash. So there's Nash, there's Xander, there is Grayson, and then there's Jameson. And Jameson and Avery automatically hitch it off. They like build this sort of like work relationship together. There are some issues with the brothers that you find out throughout the story, but I loved everything about this. It was amazing. So 4.5 star rating. I cannot wait for the sequel. Next, I reread The Raffle by Rennie. I gave it a 5-star again. This is basically a retelling of the, what is it called? Oh my god, what is the name of the story? Oh my gosh, 1001 Nights. The 1001 Nights. And it followed Shahrazad as well as Khalid and their romance. And I love Shahrazad. I love how sassy she is. I love Khalid. He is like this brooding dark sort of lonely boy, but he is such a softie on the inside. I love it. And I love his friend. Can't remember his friend. I'm drawing a blank on today. I don't know why, but I did give it a 5-star. This was a 5-star when I read it years ago, and it's still a 5-star now, and I love this edition. This cover is everything. Okay, everything. Following that, I read Six of Crows by Evelyn Hugo. Now, the first time I read this book, I gave it a 5-star rating. Upon reread, I did give it a 4.5 just because I did not care too much going into it, and I listened to the audiobook. I was reading it first, and then I completely like switched over to the audiobook. But I love Cass, I love Inej, I love Jasper, I love Nina, I love Matthias, I love Waylon. Waylon he makes my heart cry with what happened to him. The way that the Grisha are treated, I can't stand how they're treated in this book, but I'm excited to continue on. I have read this twice. I have never read Crooked Kingdom, which is why I decided to read this so that I could read Crooked Kingdom before the end of the year. But Six of Crows, this time around, I took off 1/2 star because I just wasn't totally invested in it this go. But yeah, still enjoyed it. Alright, last physical book I read is going to be Judah's Wife by Angela Hunt. Biblical fiction all about the silent years between the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it follows the Maccabee brothers. This one follows Judah Maccabee and his wife Leah and their relationship, and it was amazing. I gave it a 4.5-star rating. I love the romance between them. I loved the plot. I loved the drama. I loved the family aspect to it. I loved the faith aspects. Everything about this was beautifully written. Leah lives a very hard life. She has a really just abusive father, and her father just pissed me off. Her mother is just rude as ever. Rude. And Judah is from a well-known priestly family. His family comes from the line, I believe they're Levi's, and it's just them two coming together, learning to communicate, learning to stop with the miscommunication. I think that's why I took a 1/2-star rating, because I gave it a 4.25-star rating. That's what I gave it, not 4.5, 4.25. And the reason why is because I could not give it a full 5 because of the miscommunication trope. I'm not a big fan of it. And in this book, it just irritated me so much that they miscommunicated and did not want to talk to each other as often. So we had that. Okay, and then following that, I read a novella, 2 graphic novels, and another book. So the graphic novels I read are Fangs by Sarah Anderson. I gave this 4-star rating. This is just a comedy parody type of graphic novel about a relationship between a vampire and a werewolf, and it was everything and more. I adored this and how comical it made me. I want to try to get a physical copy because this was hilarious, so I did give that a 4-star rating. The next book I read is Spy Family Volume 2. Here it is by this author, and I gave this 5 stars. I love this story so much. I love the characters. I love the mystery spy aspect. I love the comedy into it. I love the romance that's slightly brewing. I also love the family bonds. All 3 of the characters are not really family. They are playing a role. You have a spy, you have an assassin, and then you have this little girl who's a telepath, which none of them knows about each other, but the little girl can also read minds. So it's so cute. It's so cute. Volume 1 was amazing. Volume 2 followed up just as amazingly well. So I definitely want to get physical copies because I really, really love it. It's so fun. It's so amazing. So we have Spy Family. After that, I read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was a solid 5-star. Now, the first book I read from Elizabeth Acevedo was With the Fire on High. I gave that 5 stars. It was epic. It was amazing. This was just as good. Like, I'm going to find a physical copy because I need a physical copy like ASAP. This was everything, and I love the fact that it included poetry and slam poetry. Like, I grew up doing poetry as a kid. I grew up doing it in middle school and high school. I gave it up in college, but I still love poetry to this day. And just seeing it and going through life with Zamora, I think that's how you say her name, is Zamora. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. It's on the screen, but her story was just so tragic. I felt like her mama was a little excessive. Realistically, I know that this is like really happens for some Latinx American people, but her mother irritated me up until the end when everything was all cool and peachy. I was like, yes, yes, yes. And as a Christian, some aspects in here kind of triggered me, not in a bad way, but it kind of like made me upset because I know for a fact within the Christian community, some people are very like, throw Jesus down your neck, and if you don't repent, you're gonna go to hell type stuff. Like, I don't condone that. I don't think that we should be teaching fire and brimstone, but I know a lot of people are raised on that fire and brimstone story. I luckily was raised on God's loving grace. So yeah, that part like irritated me so much. I was like, oh, I was like talking to the page as I was reading, well, the ebook as I was reading, because I was like, why is her mother doing that? Why is she doing that? The whole sitting in kneeling on the ground and rice. I don't like that. But 5 stars, solid read, loved it. last thing I read was a novella, and it's The Crown and the Arrow by Rennie, and I gave it 5 stars. It's just the .5 prequel novella to the story all about Khalid before he meets Shahrazad, and it's pretty interesting. So yeah, those were all the books that I read for the month 23. Like I said, I did not get a chance to read 8 of the books, but I did carry 3 over into October. So yeah, the only other book I didn't get a chance to read is By Any Means Necessary by Candace Montgomery. This was the book, this was the group read for the Latin Axathon. I didn't get a chance to read it. I do own the ebook, so I still will read it eventually, but yeah. However, that is it for this video. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, let me know. I know my wrap-ups don't always be are not always extensive with like explanation, and that's just because I don't want my videos to be super long. I have a habit of rambling on in my videos, hence my October TBR. But I'm trying to keep my videos under 30 minutes as much as possible, so yeah, that is it. If you read any of these books, let me know your thoughts down below. If you want a review on these books, let me know. I can definitely do that. But that is it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.